Beyond the Hype, a fashion lifestyle tech podcast. Presented by Stephanie Williams and Greg Lewis.
Welcome to today's episode, where we dive into a topic that feels more urgent than ever. Fast fashion brands have been slow to embrace the digital tools that could revolutionize the industry tools, like 3D modeling and virtual samples. The technology is there, ready to cut down waste and production time. Yet many of these companies prioritize profits over progress. As we face a growing climate crisis, it's frustrating to see the potential for change being sidelined in favor of maintaining the status quo. There are plenty of opportunities to digitize these processes. We'll explore the possibilities available today and what's on the horizon for the future.
Okay, so get this. The fashion industry, it's responsible for a crazy amount of global carbon emissions, like 10%.
10%.
Yeah, that's more than all international flights in those massive cargo ships, like, combined.
That's wild. I mean, it really puts things in perspective about the impact of fashion.
Right, totally. And, you're super into sustainable fashion already, so...
Oh, yeah, always thinking about it.
I know you're already thinking about the impact of, what we wear, but still, those numbers... kind of mind-blowing, right?
Yeah, no, totally.
Okay.
It really highlights how the fashion industry, the way it's usually done, traditionally, it just has this surprisingly huge environmental footprint.
Yeah, for sure. And that's exactly what we're going to dig into today, how technology is trying to shake things up and make it better. So specifically, we're going to unpack how, all this digital stuff, like digitalization and 3D modeling, are making fashion greener, more efficient.
And way faster.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Think about this. Imagine you could design an entire collection, right? But it's all virtual.
Yeah.
You see how the fabric drapes, how the garment moves and flows all in a screen.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Right. That's what digital samples can do. It's basically like having this virtual fitting room.
I like it.
Where you can just go wild experimenting with tons of possibilities without wasting any fabrics.
Okay, so no more giant scraps of fabric everywhere.
Exactly.
That's awesome. It's like taking that fun of playing dress up,
right,
but combining it with super advanced tech.
The best of both worlds.
Right. So how does it actually work?
So at its core, it's all about this thing called 3D modeling.
Okay.
Designers, they use this special software, really powerful, to create these crazy detailed three-dimensional versions of their garments, like digital replicas.
Oh, interesting.
And these digital samples, get this, they're so realistic that they can even show how different fabrics drape and fold, just like in real life.
Wow, that's impressive.
Just like having a virtual mannequin right there on your screen.
Yeah.
You can dress it up however you want, change the outfit a million times just with a click.
No more waiting for samples to be flown in from across the world.
Exactly.
That's going to be a game changer, especially for designers.
Oh, absolutely. It totally streamlines the whole design process.
I bet.
Designers can make changes super fast right there on the computer. They can play around with different colors, patterns.
Oh, yeah.
And they get instant feedback on their ideas.
That's so much faster than sending it off and waiting, sending it off, waiting.
Right, it's immediate.
Okay, so faster design process, that's a huge plus. But what about the whole sustainability thing?
Yeah.
How does this actually cut down on waste?
Well, think about all the fabric that usually gets wasted, right?
Oh, tons.
Making physical samples, it's a lot.
Yeah.
With these digital samples, you just eliminate all that waste.
Oof, gone.
Exactly. Plus, you're not shipping physical stuff around the world, which also shrinks that carbon footprint even more.
Oh, yeah.
And there are companies out there like Mojo Moto, for example.
Mojo Moto, yeah, I think I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're creating these hyper-realistic digital samples that you would swear are the real deal.
Oh, wow. So they're leading the charge in this whole digital sample thing.
Totally. They're one of the pioneers for sure. And what's really interesting is that big brands, like the big names, they're catching on really quickly.
Like who? Give me some examples.
Think Nike, H&M, even the luxury brands like Burberry.
Mm-hmm.
They're all starting to use this technology in their design processes.
Wow. So it's not just a small trend anymore.
Not at all. It's becoming the way to do things.
It's so cool to see even those big luxury brands getting on board with this. I mean, it's pretty cutting edge stuff, but what about smaller brands?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Is this something everyone can use, or is it mostly for the big guys in the industry?
Right. Well, that kind of gets to one of the hurdles with getting this tech everywhere. The upfront cost,
Oh, yeah, like the software and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Investing in the software, getting everyone trained up, that can be a real barrier for smaller businesses, especially when they're just starting out.
Yeah.
But
That makes sense.
there are more and more resources popping up all the time to help with that, to kind of bridge that gap.
Oh, that's good to hear. It's like any new tech, right? Starts out kind of exclusive, then over time it becomes more accessible.
Exactly.
So speaking of accessible, our deep dive mentions that this isn't just changing how clothes are designed, but also how they're like shown off, how people experience them.
Oh, totally.
What does that look like in practice?
Think virtual fashion shows, right? And augmented reality try-ons.
Okay, those are pretty popular these days.
Right. So imagine like you're chilling on your couch, but you're at a fashion show, seeing all these incredible designs in crazy detail.
Yeah.
Or even better, you're using your phone.
Yeah.
And you can see how that new jacket you've had your eye on would actually look on you, like for real.
That's cool. No more guessing.
And the best part is, none of those clothes even need to exist physically yet.
Wow, that's wild. It's like having a digital closet, but you can actually try stuff on.
Right. It's like the ultimate try before you buy experience.
And you can like experiment with way more styles, right? Since you're not limited by what's physically in the store.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just about convenience, it's also about being more mindful about what you buy, you know? Like imagine trying on endless outfits virtually,
Yeah.
playing with styles, trying out trends, all before you even think about hitting that purchase button.
Oh, I love that.
It could lead to a world where we buy less stuff, but when we do buy something, it's because we really love it.
Yes. Using technology to help us be more thoughtful about what we're buying. That's amazing. You know, it reminds me of something else that was in the sources about how the pandemic really impacted all this.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like fast-tracked everything.
Totally. The pandemic was this moment where the fashion industry kind of had to adapt overnight.
Yeah, for sure.
Like physical fashion shows,
Right.
out the window.
Right.
So we saw this huge boom in digital presentations, virtual showrooms, all that. It was the only way to keep things moving.
It's like the pandemic basically forced the future of fashion to arrive early.
Right, like fast forwarded a few years.
Yeah.
And the thing is, a lot of those digital innovations, they stuck around. They worked so well that they're here to stay.
That makes sense. People got used to them and realized, hey, this is actually pretty good.
Exactly.
So it seems like we're on the edge of this like huge shift in how we think about fashion, like from the start to finish, design to production, even how we shop and like consume fashion.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time.
Yeah. But like with any big change, there are always going to be bumps in the road, right?
Yeah, sure.
What are some of the challenges that still need to be figured out?
Well, one of the big ones is making sure that all these amazing digital solutions, they're actually usable by everybody in the industry, right?
Right, not just the big companies.
Exactly. We need to make things more standard,
Yeah.
make sure different platforms can work together.
Okay, yeah.
So it's easier for those smaller brands, the up-and-coming designers, to really participate and thrive.
It's like building a whole new fashion world, but in the digital space.
Yeah, exactly. And we need to make sure everyone has access.
Right, totally. Okay, so we've got the practical stuff, but are there like ethical things we should be thinking about too?
Oh, absolutely. There are always ethical considerations, like who actually owns a digital design?
Oh, right.
How do we prevent people from just like clipping them all the time?
Like digital knockoffs.
Exactly. Protecting intellectual property, that's huge in a virtual world.
Right, it's easy to copy things in the digital world.
Way too easy. And then, how do we make sure that these new technologies don't accidentally create more inequality,
Yeah.
or leave people out?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. We want to make sure it's a level playing field.
Exactly. These are all really important questions that we really need to be asking as we move forward with all this.
Yeah, it's like we're building the plane as we're flying it, which is kind of exciting.
Totally. It's a whole new frontier, right? And that's where you come in, the consumer.
Oh, interesting. You mean like holding brands accountable?
Exactly. Putting pressure on brands to be more transparent about their practices, make sure they're actually doing what they say they're doing, sustainability-wise.
Okay, so using our voices, literally.
Right. But it's also about embracing these new technologies yourself. The more we as shoppers, as consumers, demand and support these more sustainable and ethical practices, the faster things will change across the board.
Yeah, that makes sense. So it's not just about buying less, but being more mindful about what we do buy.
Exactly. Making those choices that match up with our values,
Yeah.
Like putting your money where your mouth is, basically.
Right. Walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Love it. And that kind of brings us back to the heart of this whole deep dive, right?
Yeah.
We were super curious about how technology is changing the game for fashion, making it more sustainable, all that.
Right.
And it's so wild to see how it's not just about like less waste, less emissions, which are obviously huge.
Sure.
But it's also about like shifting our entire relationship with clothes, with fashion itself.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's making us rethink the whole system.
Totally. It really makes you think about what it actually means to be a conscious consumer these days, especially with all the tech that's involved now.
Absolutely. It's a really interesting evolution. And the crazy thing is, it's all happening right now, right in front of us.
Yeah, it's moving so fast.
For sure.
Yeah.
But before we wrap things up, I did want to leave you with one more thought, something that came up while we were going through all these sources.
Oh, okay. Yeah, what's that?
So we've talked a ton about the environmental side, the tech side, all super important.
Right.
But what about the human element of all this?
Oh, interesting. I like where you're going with this.
Right. Like if this digital design stuff allows for way more experimentation, more personalization,
Well, for sure.
could it lead to a fashion world that's actually way more diverse, more inclusive?
Oh, wow.
Imagine a world where literally anyone, no matter their size, their shape, their background, can have clothes designed specifically for them.
Wow. Yeah. Made to fit you, but also like made to reflect your style, your identity.
Exactly. It really challenges us to like think bigger, think beyond just the immediate benefits of all this cool tech. What if it could actually make the fashion industry more equitable, more expressive? That's pretty powerful.
Totally. It's like we're not just redesigning clothes at that point, but like redesigning the whole system.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, on that note, that's a pretty incredible thought to leave us with. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of digital fashion, everyone.
Beyond the Hype, a fashion lifestyle tech podcast.